Hello and welcome to another episode of Creative Appetite. Today I'm joined by my good friend Lauren. She is the owner and creator of The Fifth Design, which is a homewares label specialising in epoxy resin over natural wood sources, i.e. chopping boards, small cup, like coasters.
I was like, do I save you? Or?
Yeah, it's all right. Come back and save me. Anyway, this happens all the time.
Good.
Every intro with every single person somewhere along the line, I'm like, yep.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. I don't know if that's like being unprofessional or if
No, it's good. It makes me more relaxed.
I feel like there's too many people that write these really ridiculous long intros.
Yeah.
It's like it's so unnecessary.
Yeah, literally you have to like the start of every podcast, like skip until like 10 minutes and then you finally get into the crux of it.
They really like dive deep.
Yeah.
It's like now you've just pretty much told me everything about him. I don't even need to.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even need
What's
to
the
listen.
point,
Yeah, it's like
man?
why am I even here now?
Yeah.
So maybe it's the fact that it is kind of unprofessional and just off the cusp makes it work.
It's the charm. It's great.
How did you start? Like, how did you get into this particular industry?
Kind of just like fell into it really. Well, do you want the full story? Yeah. So started off originally, going down like the whole uni path, and I was like, nah, stuff this. Like, I want to be an artist. I want to be creative. So I started painting. It's really hard to sell paintings.
It is very hard.
And then, I started playing around with resin, and resin was like really hot at that point in time. Went to markets and they just sold all that stuff within like the first hour. And I was like, I actually really enjoy doing this. And I can feed myself. So like win-win. And I kind of just went with it. I started making more and more resin. Didn't really take it seriously until probably about 12 months ago. I mean, took it seriously, but I was down in Melbourne and there was just lots of partying. So I came up here for like the lovely sea change and just fully focused on the business. And grew it into something, realised I absolutely love business. Like, it's just so much fun. And now I'm here, which is mad. First podcast.
I always forget that a lot of people that come on haven't been on one before. I'm like, but you guys are all so interesting. I'm like, why wouldn't anyone else want to have you on?
Bless.
So it's always so bizarre to me. But so you started down in Melbourne, is that where you started learning how to use resin?
Yeah. I was just playing around with like paints and stuff. I did the whole like market scene and stuff down in Melbourne, but it was just shocking. Cold and wet. And you're like lugging, chopping boards out into these like fields with my little trolley, marquee. Oh my Lord. So that didn't last very long. Came up here.
Melbourne has the worst weather.
Oh my God.
And I'd nearly say that Brisbane Queensland has the next worst weather.
Really?
In Australia, yeah.
Why?
Because up here it rains a lot. Yeah. There's like a weird wet season that happens.
Yeah.
But it's not really that close to the tropics, so I always get confused. Yeah. Because like I used to live up in Darwin. So there's like wet season and dry season, and they're coming. Like there's a build up. It's going to be pissing down rain. Here, it's like you get all this nice summer weather, but then it just miraculously starts pissing down rain all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is insane. Like this is, but then they still have winter and all these other like the other seasons. So I'm like, it's like, are you confused, Queensland? Are you just unsure about your weather?
What is going on? Well, that's what Melbourne's like, but instead of it being like a week of rain, it's like beautiful sunny weather, rain, thunderstorm, hail, sun. You're like, what is
all
going
the seasons
on?
in one day.
Yeah. So it's actually so nice up here, like not freezing to death. And
shout out to the Queensland weather.
Yeah, fully. So what you talk about?
So everyone should come up here and start. We were like just pretty much those tourist ads that were like, yeah, Queensland's really great. Come up.
Go back home.
Get out of here.
Literally, you say you're from Melbourne up here and it's like, oh shit, shouldn't have said that. People like fully don't welcome me.
Did you grow up, are you like originally born and bred in Melbourne?
Yeah.
What suburb did you grow up in?
Do you know Essendon? Pascoe.
No, I kind of, sort of. Essendon, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So does that mean you're an Essendon supporter?
No. Oh, well, I don't really follow the footy, but Collingwood. But the rest of the family, there's like beef between those two.
That's crucial. That's pretty bad. My dad followed Collingwood.
Oh, really?
And it was really weird because like we're from New Zealand and like he lived in Melbourne for a little bit. I was like, out of all the teams you could have picked in Melbourne, I was like, you picked Collingwood.
Why?
I was like, that's so interesting. I was like, why did you do that? Not that there's anything wrong with Collingwood, but you know, there's like this whole like rival, like everyone's like, oh, you follow Collingwood. I'm like, you literally could have picked any team, like, because it's not like Melbourne was strapped for teams. I was like, so what was your purpose for picking Collingwood? But he still never gave me a proper answer, and I was like, like this is quite interesting.
It's like the kind of bogany.
Maybe he's a bogan deep down.
Yeah, there's like that hard edge that people are like, oh yeah, go for Collingwood.
Yeah, it's like it like keeps you on the cusp. Like you're the the outlier. I think that's what it is. I always thought that my dad was like a Kiwi bogan. Like if there was like a word for a bogan in New Zealand, that's what he would be.
That's your dad. What's your dad's name?
Gary.
There you go.
And he's like a hardcore like All Blacks fan and rugby fan. I was like, you are 100% like a bogan, but just in Kiwi form.
Yeah. So you've been everywhere.
Yeah, I've travelled a fair bit. I've been everywhere in Australia, every like major city. Yeah. Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old are you?
28.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And then I've also been overseas as well. Yeah. I've moved around a fair bit.
Yeah.
But I'm here now, so that's great.
It's all that matters.
That's all that matters. With your resin, so for someone who doesn't understand what resin is and how long it takes to cure and stuff like that, because let's go back to like the basics, so before you even put the colour in it. It's like a translucent liquid, is that correct?
Yeah, it's like glass. So comes in like a 2-part form, and basically you mix them together 50-50 or whatever the ratio is for the brand, and then it turns into, like, it's theoretically called liquid glass. So you can pour it onto anything. They put on surfboards and like hulls of boats and stuff. And and then we add in like all the different colours. You can only use like a tiny percent, like 6% colour, and then basically you've got kind of paints, and then you go around, and it's actually quite a stressful process, which is like, you know, art being all like creative and like mindful, and you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you got resin, and it's like, oh my God, I've only got like 25 minutes to do this, and you're like running around the room like a mad woman. So it definitely is like a high pressure environment. Because like if it starts to cure, which basically just means that it goes really tacky, kind of like a toffee. And then when that happens and you haven't finished all the designs, you've just lost everything, you know. So it definitely has happened a few times. But so you've got about 25, 40 minutes until it starts to cure, and then 72 hours until it's properly hard.
With your designs, do you draw them before you put it onto the wood, or do you just kind of like whip it up and make it as you go? Yeah,
just wing it really. So when I first started, I would just do all different designs with, you know, no method or anything, just kind of whatever I was feeling, which was fun. But now that everything's obviously scaled up heaps, we've only got 6 designs. So to get to those is definitely a process, and like lots of trial and error, because the way that you kind of get depth with resin is like through layering, and whether or not you use translucent or opaque inks, which just basically means that it's kind of like the way that things layer and the order in which colours go, that's how you get your design. So definitely like lots and lots of trial and error, just through doing. I'm not really much of a planner, but just kind of throw it on and see what it looks like, and if it looks good, just remember it, and then you just repeat that over and over.
I'm not a planner either, obviously, from this intro. Comes full circle. When you were living in Melbourne, what job were you doing before you dove into this particular business?
So I was a retail assistant for 7 years, and I hated every single day. So I was doing that, and then I was at uni. And then what happened was the business shut down, like the retail business. And I deferred uni all at the same time, and I was kind of like left with nothing, and in a good way. Like I chose obviously to quit uni. And then, I was just kind of like, what actually makes me tick, what makes me happy, and then just start afresh and go from there.
So were you just kind of like lingering around for a few months with no job?
No, I can't not do anything. I think I think I knew that it was coming and that I wasn't going to have a job. And I'd saved a fair bit of money, not heaps, but I kind of knew that I had to think of something. I don't know what actually happened then. I think I was living with my mum, and I think I was just like ignorance is bliss kind of thing. And I'll be like, I'm fine. Like, if I'm not making any money, I'm sure I'll be fine. Like, I'll just figure it out as I go. And I think it was just one of those like, oh yeah, you'll make it. Like, you just try. Like, of course it's going to work. Me being like 18 years old, like totally oblivious to like what life is actually like.
Backing yourself.
Yeah. You just have to back yourself though, hey. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
So did you start diving into resin when you were 18? Around that? Because how old are you now?
25.
25?
Yeah.
So you're still relatively young.
Youngin'.
Actually, 25 is like the tipping point. For me, when I was 25, I was like, the world's coming to an end. I was like, this is where it all just goes downhill, and I need to get my life sorted.
Yeah.
And I always never really understood the phrase "get your life sorted," and I still don't think I understand it that much. I'm like, what does that even mean? Get your life sorted. And the older you get, the less it becomes normal to like. For what I thought "get your life sorted" meant when I was younger, was like this corporate job, family and kids, blah blah blah, the white picket fence life.
Yeah.
That was like, get your life sorted. And then like now I'm 28 and I'm like, I'm still in the trying to figure it out stage.
Yeah.
Hopefully the podcast takes off.
I love it.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy because I'm 28. Like, I don't like, if you were to like put yourself on a scale of desirability for a female to male ratio, it's like you're just like at the bottom pecking order because you don't have it sorted.
Oh no.
But I feel like the older you get, the less that becomes like everyone starts to understand that no one really has it together, which kind of makes sense because when you're growing up, you think your parents are like heroes getting around. You're like, they have it together. But when in reality, they're probably just scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to make sure they can get you to school.
Literally. And that's the thing. It's like what having it together is, going to uni or getting like a high paying job or whatever. And like little do we know that that's not who wants to do that? I mean, when it's not authentically them, you look at everyone else who has their lives together and it's like, are they actually happy?
Yeah, 100%. I just
follow what makes you feel good.
That's the whole point of the podcast, just to make people like follow their goals and dreams. Because I think at the end of the day, you don't really have to, even if it's just a hobby, like just do it. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people just go home. I was speaking to maybe just a friend, I can't remember, but we're just having this chat about like normal everyday people. That a lot of people are quite happy just to go home, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed and get up and do the same thing again. Mm-hmm. To me, that sounds like you may as well just die already. Like that is, I don't know how people. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what makes you happy, which is at the end of the day, do what makes you happy. But for someone like me who's really hyperactive and always on the go, I think I couldn't think of anything worse than not having something to strive for.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes me wonder what's going on in their head. Or is there just nothing going on in their head and like they're happy with that? Because apparently there's people that get around that just don't have any crazy thoughts going on. And I always thought I was normal. I was like, oh, everyone's like this. And people are like, nah, people aren't like that. I'm like, shit. I had a Ritalin the other, when was it? Like maybe a month or so ago. And I've never had anything like this before. And all my friends recently are like, you have ADHD. And I was like, no, I don't. I tried to get diagnosed from a doctor last year. And he said I was too old.
What?
Yeah. He's like, oh, you're too old now. I was like,
what do you mean?
I was like, what does that mean?
Oh, because you've like learnt all of your coping mechanisms and stuff.
I don't know. But I was like, tell you what, it would be fucking helpful if I knew, because then I'd know how to like focus and manage my crazy energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so I had to self-diagnose. So I took a Ritalin, and everything just went quiet.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
so you do.
Oh my God. But it was like too quiet. then I was like really focused, and I was like, wow, I was like, where's the balance between like, I think it was like the first initial, like once it kicked in, I was just like there was no thoughts. I was like, man, this is dead quiet up in there.
Yeah. Maybe you need to go to a different doctor.
Maybe that's the moral of the story here. Just go to a different doctor.
Or just take heaps of Ritalin, either or.
But I feel like that if more people knew about their mental, like if they had it or not, or like if they struggled to focus, as a school and as teachers, you'd be able to direct them in the right way and teach them in the right way, rather than having what happened to me where I got asked to leave school in year 10.
Oh.
So I was like, if you knew what you were doing, there'd be so many more students that would be thriving and becoming way more creative or in whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Like, because they know how to focus and use their energy and things like that. But I just don't think that's a thing. Well,
maybe it was your way to like break free. I feel like year 11 and 12 is where they like suck all the creative out of you. And it's just like, you know the whole thing of schools being a place where they grow kids into like factory workers or like being workers, not like creatively thinking. So it's probably just a blessing in disguise for you.
Well, I stayed in school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
So it gets funnier because she asked me to leave in year 10, like sat me and 3 other guys down. She's like, I highly recommend you don't come back to school next year. I was like, right.
Great.
I was like, now that you've told me that, I was like, now I'm going to stay in school. And I did. I went to year 12, which I was the first person in my family to complete year 12. So
amazing.
I was like, screw you, bitch.
Yeah.
I was like, don't ever tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Then that seems to be the running narrative of my life. If someone tells me to do something, I'm like, right, I'll just do the opposite. To prove you wrong. Probably toxic. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably a real deep issue
There's a real deep-seated issue there. But so when you were growing up through school, was there any subjects that were creative that you were working on, like in art when you're talking about painting and stuff like that? Was that something that you wanted to go into as a child?
Yeah. For as long as I can remember, I always loved like painting and drawing and creating stuff. But I went to a very like academic school and it was just very much pushed like the sciences and the maths and all that sort of stuff, and I was like, no, I want to do art. And Mum's like, no. But anyway, ended up doing it, and it was just in a school where that wasn't encouraged, and then I remember like I don't know who even said it to me, but someone was like, artists don't make any money. So I was like, oh, well, I better go down like the science path. And it was just like this real crushing sort of thing of this is what makes you happy and this is what lights you up, this is what gets you out of bed in the morning, but there's no real path for you. And there wasn't ever any sort of like expanders or anything along that road of like, oh, that person's done it, so I can do it. And I think that really sucks. Like, I remember the amount of people that the school would get in to talk to us about their unique path and all these crazy things they were doing, and people from NASA and all this sort of stuff. But there was never anyone about, oh, this person's, started their own business, or this person's become an artist, or this one's become a musician or a designer or whatever. And I think that's like a real problem. I don't know whether it was like our school exclusively, but there was just no support from anyone of go follow your dreams, go do what makes you happy, because then everything else will just follow behind,
Yeah, I never had that growing up in school either. And it's so crazy because there's no footprint for people that want to be creative and like follow that path.
Yeah.
So then you're stuck like leaving school. Like again, like I feel like if you had better structure for people like that, the difference would be like immense, because they'd leave school with at least a bit of a footpath on which way to go.
Yeah.
Rather than just like doing these retail jobs or jobs that they don't like, and they're just confused and they don't know how to take the first steps to even get to that point, which is so crazy, because then there's so many people wasting their lives.
How many people do arts degrees just because they've got no idea what they're going to do, Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
It's like, what?
But it's all going to change. Do you have hope? Like, I feel like something's going to have to happen, whether... I was actually watching this documentary, and they were saying that, like, obviously with the development of technology, that the schooling system is so outdated. Like, we don't need to learn how to spell. We don't need to learn how to do math. Like, I think they said by the end of 2030, we're going to have, oh God, I can't remember this fact now. Something about like
people like hanging for the the punchline of the fact that
I
like,
can't tell
what is
stories.
it? What is it? And you're like, anyways, you should just watch the documentary. It's crumbling.
Oh my god. Basically, technology is going to become so advanced, so accessible that like we're not going to need the schooling that we've had. Like, who needs? Like, when have you ever used maths, Pythagoras, and algebra and stuff?
You kind of need it when you're like doing stuff in building. But the thing is with that is that they only use a certain set of formulas for that specific industry. So I'm sure you'd pick that up while you're in the industry. Yeah. Like, it's not something that you need to know.
Yeah.
Like, why don't they teach tax and stuff on money and how to like save properly and things
how
of that nature? How to be an adult, maybe.
Yeah.
Instead of just having this on-running narrative of people just getting out of school, blowing all their money, and then they're homeless or they're whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
But it's going to have to change. Like, it's just going to have to be different. I think people are like waking up. Parents will be like, I'm not accepting this curriculum anymore. Like, I did this and this wasn't right. Like, surely, like, you know, the whole Steiner School thing, like that's going to have to be a big, like, subsector, subtle word, of the education industry.
Yes, and I went to a very academic school. That like
you don't need English.
You don't need English at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh god.
I think that's one thing though. That's the whole point of this podcast though, is to like give other creatives that are young or older a platform to like go onto and see how other people have done it, and give them like a bit of a guide.
Yeah,
because there is no guide, and the whole point of this is to speak to every creative. And like I've said this in multiple different podcasts, is that it's not just necessarily like the stereotypical creative, like someone who's a painter or an artist or whatever. It could also be in business, because there's so many creative people in business, especially like people that, I don't know, do like business strategy or building apps and like whatever it may be that's in the business realm. A lot of those people don't consider themselves creatives because there's this weird, there's this whole thing, and this is why I don't like mainstream media, is because you just get put into a box all the time. It's like, why can't you just be multiple different things? Like, humans aren't just one thing. It's like your personality isn't just one run. It's like there's multiple different parts of your personality. So why are we all just put into this box of, oh, you're a creative and you're a businessman and you two can't meet?
Yeah, yeah. Like the whole definition is just, it's absolutely screwed. Anything that you do that you think and then you put out into the world, whether it's an essay or a business strategy or an artwork, they're all in their own right creative. And that's the issue. Like, I just remember being at school and people are like, oh, you're so creative. And it's like, no, this is just a skill. Like, it's literally just a skill that I've learned. And being creative is just the desire, I guess, just to be yourself. Yeah. Really, isn't it?
I guess it's seen, well, this is the way I perceive it, is that like business people are in a box and they're like very structured, and then the creative box is like you can be your full self, whatever it may look like. But I don't necessarily agree that that's the way it should be, because then you're just both being put into a box. Yeah. Which is kind of weird. Like, it's like, why can't you just be human and just be good at something and be happy with that?
Yeah. Like, what would we do without the boxes though? That's the thing. It's like those stereotypes and stuff, like they're all shitty and awful, but it's just such an easy way to get through life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't know. This is just, again, these are all my personal opinions. I don't know, but I just think that it's getting too ridiculous now, where everyone's trying to have a label for everything. Like, everything has to have a label, everything has to be put into a box, and blah 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 blah. It's like, why can't you just be human? Like, let's just get rid of all this other stuff and just go back to being this person. This is their name. They're really lovely. I enjoy them. Done. Yeah. They're really good at that. Cool. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Why is it? It's like, no. This person's this is that, and da-da-da. There's like all these like different factors. It's like, dude, we ain't got time. Like, people don't have time to be constantly like being cautious about, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different labels for so much. It's like nothing can be that. Everything has to be overcomplicated now. It's like, why? It's like, just go back to just being like your business. Really great. you look at it, you're like, sweet, I understand it. Real simple, done. Like, no one's going on there going, okay, let's just break this down. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, so why are we doing that with humans? Why do we all have to be so bloody overcomplicated?
Yeah, true. Because it's so individualistic, and there's so many of us.
I know. There's so many different personalities out there. It's like, you can't just box them all.
Yeah.
I know it might seem easier to box them all, but that's what happens when you, like, this is what happens when the government starts doing knee-jerk reactions. Oh, we better just do this. And it's like, then you ruin everything else for the next 10 years. And then we have to go back and rebuild.
Yeah.
Oh, we shouldn't have done that 10 years ago. Anyway, gets sidetracked here. But, oh, my God. So when was the first time you created something with resin, and what did it look like?
I actually can't remember. Oh, yeah, no, I do remember. It was pretty shocking. Because it's like, it's all about density. So it's like really based on, you got to kind of know the science behind resin for something to look good. Although a lot of stuff can look good without trying. But it was like really flat. I used like a pinky, anyway, it was like white, pink and gold, but they were all so, like, the ink wasn't potent enough, so it just looked so flat. But yeah, someone still bought it though, and I was like, oh my God, like, that was the first piece I ever did, and then it sold at the market, and I was like, oh my God, how's this for some validation?
I am the best. I'm the best.
Look, everybody, look what I did.
Was it on a chopping board?
Yeah. Do
you know if that person still has it?
Oh, no.
Just do a shout out and find it.
I don't even remember. I remember her face. There was a woman at Heidi Market in 2016. And I remember I didn't even, like, when you do resin, like, it's the liquid, so it spills over the side, and then you get all these, like, droplets underneath. You're supposed to remove them, right? Like, what are you going to do with a chopping board that doesn't sit flat? Sold it like that, didn't think anything of it. I was just, like, so excited by, like, the creative process. This woman bought it, and she's like, what do I do with this? And I'm like, oh, shit, don't know. Can you figure that one out? I'll figure it out next week. But, she was lovely. And, yeah, you never forget those, the people who buy your first things.
I always like have this thought, and I don't know, I don't want to jump. Okay, anyway, I was like, should I say this?
Yeah, do it.
I find that a lot of female businesses have a really good, strong support network of other females.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I was about to ask, like, with because yours is in homeware, do you have like a very strong, like, support and community around your business?
Yeah, interesting. Good question.
You're like, I'm not sure, actually.
I've always, the whole way through the business, I haven't really ever had, like, any mentors or anyone who's done anything like this before. So everything was always trial and error. And there is a thing when you're doing something that people around you don't understand. You can only really ask so many questions. So it was, like, a little bit lonely, I reckon, for, like, the first few years. But, you know, everyone has actually been really supportive, and now it's incredible. Like, I've got such a good team, and my partner's just, like, I mean, I chew his ear off really with all of he helps me decide absolutely everything. So just, definitely having, and I think probably that's the reason why the business has grown so much as well, is just being able to have people who, I guess, have your back, and want to, like, ask you questions and want you to, like, sort things out, like, with them, because that sort of stuff is invaluable. I would literally sit there and talk to myself about, like, new ideas and, like, see just how things sounded, like, a bit of a crazy woman, but but that's what, it's just the way that I did things. And again, like, I wouldn't, like, actively go out and ask for help. I think that was also just indicative of my age.
You did mention, though, you just briefly touched on, you said you felt, like, lonely at the start. Can you kind of elaborate on what you meant by that? Was that, like, just like when you were like, designing and you weren't confident in your designs? Is that kind of what you meant?
It was more like it sounds a bit depressing now that I say it out loud, but it was more that the whole business side of things was, I think because what I was seen as was an artist, but in actual fact, I was creating a business. And doing that part was really lonely. Like that whole process, I don't think people really understand how much goes into a business. What you see on the outside is the real tip of the iceberg, and hours and hours and hours go in, and you hustle and you grind and you fail, and especially like, you know, when you don't have that whole like prints to follow through, when you don't really have a roadmap, you make a lot of mistakes. But yeah, they weren't really, I didn't really talk to people about it. And yeah, so that bit was kind of lonely, but because people just saw me as the artist, right? And there was definitely, I think, an ego battle within myself of I have to prove that I'm more than just an artist to these people, because there's a bit of a stigma around it that you're just like airy-fairy and like, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, no, because I had like this, you know, masculine like ego side of me that I was like, I got to prove to these people that I can do, like I can actually do what I say that I can do. And because there was a whole like artists don't make money. So yeah, there was definitely the grind. I think I put out the artist to the world, and on the inside I was like, you know, in my room, like quietly just trying to grow this business, being like, what am I doing? But yeah, so now like you got to talk to people about it, and you got to get help from people, ask for help, talk to people about it. Yeah, because you can't do stuff by yourself. I've tried.
What were some of the things, like what were some of the struggles that you faced when starting your business? Like anything, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, especially from your end of the business, and they might be trying to start a project as well. So what were like some of the key things that you really struggled with, but then can you define key things that you struggled with and then how you resolve them?
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is if you don't have an education in business and if you want to grow a business. So I think a really big thing that kind of gets overlooked, especially in the arts, is that you can be an artist, all well and good, amazing, but if you can't figure out a way to like fit that into, like, we're still human and we're still in like this physical plane where we have to eat and survive. If you can't figure out how to maneuver your creative side to, you know, work for you so that you can keep doing it for the rest of your life, you're going to be like a little bit stuck. So there's a line between doing what you love and creating something amazing, but you also have to know how to get it out there. So that was definitely the biggest struggles, was being like, okay, cool, I can make this stuff, I love this stuff, people are responding really well to it. How do I grow? How do I actually turn this into, from like a hobby, you know, market-based business to like an actual e-commerce business? So that, I think, one, what I would do, which is what all the podcasts and everything told me to do, and I never did it, but I'm going to tell everyone else to do it, even though I bloody didn't do it, is to get a mentor, someone who's done it before. Because like my partner started a business and I was able to condense like 2 years worth of lessons into the space of, 20 minutes. And so, yeah, get a mentor and Google. Just, if you love it, you have to put in the time to research and you have to put in the time to learn, and you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that the people that you look up to are no different to you. The only thing that's between you and that other business or that other person or that whatever it is that you're aspiring to be is just the fact that they've got time before you and knowledge. So there's nothing that's stopping you from acquiring knowledge. The only thing is time. So you got Google, just dedicate yourself to it. And yeah, like there will always be that voice of doubt. I struggled with the doubt for years of, oh, no one's going to want my stuff anymore, or like, the whole imposter syndrome, or like, what am I doing? This is just, this isn't going to work. That will always be there. It's gone away now, but
now that you run a successful business.
Yeah, now that I don't have to like worry about where I'm going to eat. But yeah, so that, where was I going? Oh my Lord.
No, you're talking about jumping on Google and doing research.
Yeah. So the biggest struggle, you just got to, and you have to just learn. You can I did all just trial and error stuff. I was like, I'm going to take photos like this and then like this and then like this and then see which one works best. But if you actually start from the start, plan it all out, learn how to properly take photos, you don't have to redo your work. Like I went through a whole rebranding on my business. Like basically just got rid of absolutely everything 12 months ago. All of my products, my website's completely different, like rebranding, Instagram, everything is completely different because I didn't do it properly at the start. If you're serious about it, start properly. It will take you longer, but people will instantly gravitate towards you.
If you were to describe starting properly, what does that look like in terms of an Instagram? Because everything's on social media these days. And this is probably going to help me because I always struggle with this side of things. And I was talking, my editor we chat all the time. We were talking about thumbnails and clickbait kind of stuff to get people to watch it. But that makes me feel really uncomfortable to be like that. Because sometimes you just shamelessly have to do it.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't really align with what I'm in this weird on the fence situation.
Yeah, I absolutely understand where you're at because it's this whole, we're in a whole reality of a hook, right? You need a hook. That first 3 seconds is the most important thing, and it has to be, you're competing with hundreds of millions of people's attention, of videos for one person's attention. So yeah, there is that whole get a good hook, but you can find hooks that are authentic, but it has to be authentic. I'm probably not the best person to be giving social media advice. Although I'm
strong social media though.
Yeah.
If you had a look at it, it's doing pretty well. I mean, it's got a lot more followers than me.
All right, I'll try to give some really good advice then. Okay, number one thing, 100% authenticity. People can see straight through it when you're just trying to get people's attention. If you're just this looks good, or you want to know exactly who you're trying to talk to. Think about that person and only create for that person. And just trial it. Trial doing a post where you're I love this. This actually gets me really excited. It could just be a clip of your favorite part of the podcast and where you're just mucking around and you're this is authentically us and this is what I want to get out into the world. People will respond really, really well to that. And then trial it again with something that you think would is theoretically supposed to, logically speaking, is supposed to be the best. And see how the two go. 9 times out of 10, it's always the authentic stuff.
Yeah, I reckon it's follow your gut. Because for me, it's how I am here in the podcast is how I am in person. Yeah. I'm no different.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't understand how people go around and put on this front, because it's if you can't be yourself, then how's anyone else going to be able to resonate with you?
Yeah.
Especially in this.
Yeah. And you can I can feel that from you. You are showing up as you. And people will respond to that. And there's going to be, there's always going to be those people out there, you can go, look at a lot of influencers or whatever it is, even on, TV. What the hell's with, free to air? Nothing is genuine on that. It's all just...
Is it still a thing? Do people still
watch
TV?
People still watch it? But that's the whole thing, right? It's people are stopping to watch it because it's not genuine. People know, we're not dumb, where there's a lot more going on in this world than our 5 senses. And people can pick up on the fact that people are just trying to get your attention, get money out of you or whatever it is. But then people are showing up authentically and people just instantly gravitate towards that. There's stuff that goes on that we don't understand that pulls like-minded people together.
I had this conversation maybe in the last podcast. We're talking about paid ads and people's attention span.
Yeah.
And it's as an influencer, this is shittest name. An influencer, oh my God. As someone...
Wait, yeah, no, go.
As someone who's an influencer or something.
Yeah.
It's okay, a lot of people, a lot of those people put in really, a lot of work to get to where they are. And then, they have to make money. So they have to do paid ads.
Yeah.
But then you as a consumer, you see someone posting a paid ad, you're you just scroll straight past it. You don't even give it time.
Yeah.
That's how bad like, I think that's how much media has been implemented into everyday life that people are just over it. Like, they're overseeing ads and they're over just because we've naturally ran ourselves into the ground from all the consumed media that we see on the day-to-day basis, that I think that now any type of like paid ads or like anything that is just seems like a waste of time, even though you're already wasting time on your phone. It's like we're already scrolling past that as well. So it's like, where's like the breaking point where it's like, this is just too, like we need to just scale this back to just being normal again without having social media like rule our lives.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, as the ages get on, the consumer just gets smarter and smarter. Like, we're all aware of when someone's trying to sell us something. So then the advertising just has to get smarter. And it's happening and we're getting sold to and we don't even realise, you know, like it could just be like that really, really, really subtle, like, you know, not even an influencer posting something, but just like looking beautiful in a dress in like the most perfect place. And they will always get people being like, where'd you get that from? And 100%. They're like, you know,
it's like
here, use
marketing
my code.
that doesn't feel like marketing.
Yeah.
That's what a rapper, Hobson, he said it in one of his songs. He's like, it's marketing that doesn't feel like marketing.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't ever know, like, good marketing you have no idea about.
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking to my friend yesterday and we were talking about those, the car incense, the ones that the guys who make the pictures, like the Doner Kebab ones, or they have like Drake ones and like all the little funny ones.
Yeah.
And she was saying the process for her to buy it was like 3 clicks. And she was like, it's so well, like she works in marketing. She was like, it's so well designed that I didn't even give you time to like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't buy this. She bought $30 worth of like car incense. She was like, I didn't even need to, but it was that
so
easy that she was like, that like by the time you like click to the 3rd click, they already got your card details and it's already sent out.
People don't know that. Like, people don't know that like she was obviously marketing and knew what was happening, but people are not aware. Like, I wasn't aware that's like was possible for 3 clicks.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And then we didn't get into that. But that's where but that's where the you know, the whole genuine stuff comes in, the authentic stuff, because we're getting pushed. Like, there's the marketing fake world, and then there's the place where, like, you know, the utopia of, you know, social media, where people are like, you know, have you like culled heaps of people on your Instagram?
Yeah, I go through it all the time. I get rid of people all the time.
And then all of a sudden you're following all these other people, and then you know, a couple of weeks later you then cull all the old people, and then it's just like, I feel like when I look at it, I'm getting more and more authentic. I'm getting more and more, okay, I'm actually following that person not because they're trying to sell me something, but because they truly inspire me. And they're not the people they're not the big influencers anymore, and they're not, you know, the stunningly aesthetic things.
I think these days I just follow more creative people to find more guests, basically.
Yeah.
And I'll probably go through a stage where I'll just delete everyone and then keep the ones that I've, like the new ones of creative people, because on my podcast page, I don't follow anyone unless I've had them on the show.
Yeah. That's a good way.
And it's a good way for me to like keep track of how many people I've had on, so I don't have to write their name down on a bit of paper. So when I first started, I was like, I'll just follow the people that I like get on. So eventually one day it might look like 1,000 people, which would be crazy.
How long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing the podcast since December last year.
Oh, nice.
So I think we're not far off 20 episodes.
Amazing.
So by the end of this month, I think we'll be pretty close.
Yeah.
So when I say we, I mean me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do this.
It's just instinct.
Again, like Jesse and I, another guy who was on here, who's coming out on Friday, the Kid Veen, he runs a clothing label. Mm-hmm. He talked about, which might resonate with you a little bit, he used to like try and make himself bigger than what he was. He would say we, as in like there's a whole team around him. And then he said, he like one day he was like, it isn't authentic. So he turned around and was like, I'm the only one who runs this. I do all the work, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he's like, the response from me turning around and saying, it's just solely me. Yeah. He was like, it was crazy. And I was like, that's so true, because I used to do, like, for some reason when everyone starts a business, we're all like, yeah, we, as in like, we're this whole corporate fucking Skyriser team of people. Like we're all like running this like massive funding coming to like these and there's literally like it's just me.
Yeah, secretly like in bed on my laptop. We heard your problems greatly.
Yeah, but like literally there's like me and Jaden and he edits them. Yeah, but like I'm the only one that's obviously facing everyone.
Yeah. It's funny. I did the same thing when I first started. It was all we, and now it's. Even though I do have a team, I say I because I'm like, I'm talking to you. I'm the one who's listening, like in customer service and that sort of stuff. And people want that. People like, it's just a natural like progression of where we're at. And I think at the start you always like want to prove that like, you know, you're bigger than what you are. Give yourself a little ego boost and be like, I'm not struggling.
The next Joe Rogan podcast.
Exactly.
But that's what you touched on before is that like it's for me. I don't think I'm any less than him or any other big podcast out there. Like it doesn't faze me the fact that they're like I just don't care because the whole thing for me is like time as well. Like time and like understanding how to market this in the right way and get the right audience and make sure that the content that's coming out is getting consumed the way I want it to be consumed rather than and I think it is like a lot of people have messaged me and contacted me about it saying like this is really inspiring or like people that I've had on have like linked up and they're like, oh, now I'm working with this person, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it's doing its job without me even trying, I guess, because I'm not being unauthentic. Like I'm genuinely just trying to get people's stories out there to help other people so then they can go out there and chase their dreams or goals or whatever it may be rather than sitting at home and just watching the Gogglebox of The Bachelor. Yeah.
Have you always wanted to do something like this?
I've always been creative. Like I've always been surrounded by a lot of creative people. I've dabbled in many different areas of creativity. I've done like music production, DJing, acting, photography. What else? I've done a couple other different things as well. Yeah. But I had another podcast in Sydney, but it never went. I never put it out. I just recorded a few episodes. Yeah. And I kind of want to bring some of the parts of that podcast back, but I just got to wait until I get into another, like down the track when I got a bit more structure once it start landing a little bit more. Yeah.
What stopped you from posting?
I wasn't happy with the product that was coming out. Yeah. I think at the time when I recorded it, it was over Zoom and it looked a bit tacky and I was like, I don't want to put something out that looks shit, basically. Yeah. So when I started this podcast, I had the idea for about 12 months starting of last year. I never did anything with it. I was doing other life issues. Yeah. And then, went through like a breakup and then just accelerated the process, which is great. Breakups are great.
They
Tell
really
you what, you get everything done. You become the next superhero for like the first couple of months. You get shit just rolls. Yeah. So that's what I did. And then, and then I wanted to make sure that when I dropped the first episode, it looked professional straight off the bat. So then there's no misconception of what I'm trying to, because I find that this is like, again, personal opinion. Don't shoot me. I find that if I was to bring out something that looks shit, it wouldn't have landed straight away.
100%.
And I didn't want that, because I'm very particular and I'm very anal about stuff, and especially when it comes to a project that I'm working on, that I'm going to be the one that's going to get held up if it's if it doesn't look the way I want it to look. Like no one else is going to come in there and be like, I can't blame anyone else, basically. Yeah. So I was like, I want to make sure it looks professional and I want it to sound great and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then, and I think from having that mentality and that outlook, it's starting to show with the response that I'm getting, and I guess it looks, and it's getting better and better as well. It's starting to look better. I don't know. That's the way. I think the progression is good. Yeah. And I still have the goal of having the biggest podcast on the Sunshine Coast by the end of this year. And there's still so much to come out. Like at the moment, I'm just putting out episodes, but there's actually a few more bigger events in the works that I haven't told anyone else about yet. So I'm keeping hold on to that until probably around November. There'll be more information coming out around June, and then November is when I'm planning on releasing all this stuff. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. And you seriously have nailed it. Like this whole setup, because you don't want to be halfway through and then be like, oh, I want to change everything, and then people have to refamiliarize themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're trying to create a place of like a sense of belonging straight away, because it's not like other businesses where I'm not sure what your business, because you're like selling a product to people. It's kind of a little bit different, I guess, where I can't sell anything here. Like I'm not making any money by having people on. Like this is all my own time, and so I think as a podcast platform, you want to make it as welcoming as possible, as fast as possible, because you only got a short window before people start losing their attention span, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Classic consumerism right now.
No, it's very impressive. Like the amount of work that obviously has gone into this for you and will continue to go in for you until you get like that momentum back. It's pretty admirable, really.
Oh, I appreciate
well
that.
Done.
Thank you. It's really weird when someone gives you a compliment. You're
Sorry.
Like, thanks.
Happy birthday.
I was like, when like people ask me more questions, and I'm like, wait a second. I start tripping out. I'm like, am I even allowed to talk about myself on here? I was like, I thought the whole point was to talk about them.
No, it's good. You got such a personality. This is like, you know, what people gravitate.
I've always got lots of stuff to talk about. I'm never always busy.
Yeah.
When you first started, or like maybe let's say a couple of months in when you came up to the coast, how did you structure your business? Like what were the steps that you put in place? Because I've never really had someone on that's openly spoken about the business side as you do, which is kind of like one thing I'd like to touch on for just for anyone listening. Yeah. Like, so how does that look like? What does the business side look like for you in terms of like placing orders? Like what programs are you using to place your orders in? Who's doing your marketing? And like, does that make sense? Like all those kind of like nitty gritty things?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, fun. I love this sort of stuff. So did you want me to like structure it in like what I did?
Yeah, maybe go from the start and then just work your way out and then end to what it is now.
Yeah, okay, cool. So when we first got up here, I realised that the general aesthetic was all off. So I started from the start. I thought about exactly who it was that I was selling to, and then figured out how to speak to them through the stuff that isn't words. So through the brand colours, through the logo, through the social media, through the website. For me, it was all about, okay, I'm selling like a visual product, so it needs to be very visual. Like it needs to be really quite deeply, someone like my customer will look at it and be like, oh, I resonate exactly with that. So that part is spend heaps of time on it. If you can get that part right, whatever you produce after that will always be a hit, because you're always talking to the person who you're trying to talk to. If you send stuff out there, I keep saying I did a lot of trial and error stuff, but I really did do a lot of trial and error. Like I would start doing stuff like making new products and all that sort of thing to see what landed, because I didn't do that work at the start. So you want to get your brand identity sorted and absolutely nailed, because then that's like the most perfect stepping stone. So from there, I redid my website. If anyone's starting an e-commerce business, 100% go with Shopify. I am with BigCommerce, which they're also great, but Shopify just have everything. And I feel like everyone knows Shopify, right? Like go with the ones that you've heard of. So I also have an Etsy shop, and Etsy is amazing. Etsy is like, that was the thing.
It's like the female wonderland.
It's honestly, it's so
Pinterest.
true. Yeah, oh, Pinterest. Oh my God, I love Pinterest.
Pinterest for females. Oh my God.
Yeah, get on Pinterest.
Like
Pinterest at the start.
If you want to impress your wife, talk to her about Pinterest. Or better yet, just put her on Pinterest and she'll just sit there for hours. Just like
it's so good. The Sunday afternoon, you got nothing to do, go into Pinterest and you're like, I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to make all these things.
Every single girl that I have interacted with all love Pinterest. Yeah. I don't think I've ever met one that's like, nah. Because for everything, it's like every single idea they got. And I don't know if guys do this, because I've only ever seen females do this. So, but they like save heaps of shit in their phone. Yeah. And they got like thousands and thousands of photos. And they're like, wait a second, I just got to go back 3 years. And then like through all of them, I'm like, how can you sit there and have your brain feel organised when you've got like over 2,000 photos of like Pinterest or like 20 million selfies or what, like your food, like your dinner. I was like, are you actually going back through there going, oh, that dinner was amazing.
Oh
wow. Like
my phone is full of people's like names because we engrave all of the chopping boards.
Oh, okay.
So you got to save every single photo. So there's just like hundreds of like literally just black and white text, and it's just a bit sad, really.
That'd give me anxiety.
What, do you have like 5 photos on you? This is my mum.
I delete all my stuff. I have to take photos for the job I'm working at the moment of like to like show, obviously put them into files, whatever. And then having all them in there stresses me out, so I have to delete them all, like make sure that they're all organised.
Do you like read all your messages and your emails and stuff, or like do you have any?
I delete all those as well.
Oh,
like
I've got like 350 unopened like text messages.
Yeah, I don't know how people live, like how they.
I don't get how you live the other way.
What kind of crazy people are living there, and they got like 3,000 emails unopened. I'm like, just delete them. Like when I get promotion emails, I just delete the whole lot. Like my email is like just clean, and sometimes And then I get to like real nitty gritty emails where I'm like, I don't know if I can delete this or not. I'm like, nah, delete it.
What about a nice little folder on your emails?
Yeah, I try to put folders as well. I try to stay really organized.
And then I had to delete it.
And then I had to delete. But I've seen friends and they're like literally got like 300 messages.
I'm
like, bro, check your emails and stuff. Like delete them or something. If you're not gonna reply, just delete them.
But then you feel like that obligation. Like my text messages, I'm shocking with my phone because like. I mean, there's no excuse to like not reply to people, but I'm shocking. And so it's like that 300 number is just like, I don't see it anymore because every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm the worst friend ever. Like I don't.
I'll just,
and then if you delete it or open it, because there's still the chance that you'll.
The read receipt? Is that what you're talking about? He's left me on red.
Like, there's like a glimmer of hope if I don't delete it, you know? I'll be
that you might get back to it 6 months later.
I've done that before. I'm like, I'm so sorry I haven't replied.
Oh yeah, I'd love to come around for dinner. Mate, that was
on me way.
That was last year. Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh God. Yeah, get a virtual assistant.
Do you have a virtual assistant?
No, I'm trying to, but it's really hard for someone who's very what's the word? I used to have a catchphrase when I was like 2 years old that was, I do it myself.
Do you say when you were 2 years old?
Yeah, like I just used to always say, I do it myself. And I would never let anyone do anything for me. So
like
trying to do a business with like that mentality, like I just end up running myself into the ground. So trying to get a virtual assistant to like palm off work and like trust people with work has been like a huge hurdle for me, which is silly, but it just was one of those things. So yeah, now trying to get a virtual assistant to, because there's just so much stuff, and like training somebody, like I'm just the whole process of like the tiny little details that go into everything, and teaching somebody that. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but I just need to do it. I think you get like the fear that people leave, and then I'm like, then I'm just gonna have to teach somebody else. So
yeah. I'm very much do it myself kind of mentality. I'm
it's
like,
good.
I'm like, why would I waste my time trying to tell someone else something that I can do myself?
Yeah. But then it just.
But then I had to go get an editor.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had to learn that someone can do this faster than I can, and then I don't have to stress about it and sit there all week going, shit, I need to get this episode out.
Yeah.
So even though I'm paying them money to do it, it's like the peace of mind of like. Just having them do it is so much better.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You just got to try to find, like, what are those things within your business or whatever it is that will, like, it will be beneficial financially and for your own mental health to palm off. Like, my marketing is all done externally just because I'm like, it's just too much. But then you got to trust people, you know? So
with your marketing, you just touched on, you said that you externally source that now. Is that what do you mean by that? Do you have like another marketing team dealing with that? So did you have to? I don't really understand marketing that well. So when you source it, like externally source it, do you have to like send them a brief of what your brand is and like, because you did mention like you now have like particular colours that work well with your customers and stuff like that. So do you have to put that in the brief? Is there like a brief that you send out?
Yeah. So there's like a whole kind of introductory process where they get to who you are as a brand, because they're trying to speak to your customer. So they want to know who they're speaking to, right? So yeah, there's like a brand guideline sort of thing that it's like a handy little notebook that you can, not notebook, not, God.
And
Sorry, everybody.
I went to a very, very prestigious school.
Oh, golly. A document, I think is the word I was looking for. If you get a little brand guideline, like document, and then you can just send it to everyone. So it's got, you know, your brand colors, who you're talking to, your tone of voice, anything that anything basically dissecting how you visually and aesthetically present to the world. So that's what the introductory for the marketing team was, but they come from a very it's a lot. So as a business owner and as a brand, like you're very clear on, like you're very fussy, right? Like you don't want to post a photo or a video that's not, you know, up to your own standard.
Yeah.
But marketing, it's all just about numbers. And they're like, this shitty photo went really well, so we're going to push that. So that's the interesting thing about marketing, is that sometimes the way that you perceive your brand and how you communicate with customers could be completely different. But yeah. So your question.
No, that makes sense. How did you? Is it like, maybe to dive in a little bit more into your brand itself? When was it? Like, when was the defining moment that you knew that you were hitting your targets with your customers? Like, what? Like, maybe let's say hypothetically, like a blue color of resin. Like, when was that? Like, was it like, did you put this product out and everyone bought it and you're like, oh, okay, so obviously they like blues. So
yeah, that was the ocean design. So it like looks like waves.
The one with the little white cloud.
Yeah,
like, that's what I thought. I was like, this looks like a wave.
Yeah, right. That was that when that was released, everybody loves blue. Like, no matter, like, we've got 6 colors, but the ocean design is probably 90% of our sales, and the other 10% is all the other colors. But you just have the other ones because they're beautiful, like, you know. But yeah, that definitely really spoke to our clientele. And the other thing was, when you get lots of people asking you the same question, that's a great indicator of where your brand is, what they want, and like, listen to your customers, because that one person that reaches out probably represents another 90 that have just never bothered to message. So we were getting lots of inquiries about whether or not we engraved the boards, to the point I was like, we just need to get some engravers, did it, and then that was the turning point for the business. Like, once that was out, and then we realised that, okay, there's like really beautiful pieces of art that people can use in their homes, but people do buy them for themselves, but it's more people commemorating like a really special occasion, a wedding, an anniversary, whatever it is. So then that made our brand really, really clear, which is where I think trial and error comes in really strongly. Unless you come from like a really strong business background, or you have done incredible market research and you know exactly what is needed, you want to be trialing as much as you can, seeing what hits, seeing what lands. Instagram polls, those questions, utilize that. Like, that is, because people always interact with that. Like, if a poll comes up when someone's like this or that, do you always click? Like, do you vote?
Yeah, probably, I guess. Yeah. I never really thought, maybe.
I love it.
I feel like, but this is where I'd try to think about how I'd tie this all back into what I'm trying to do. I'm like, it's a little bit different, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's the other thing. You always look at things and you get advice and you're like, that doesn't apply to me. But if you think about it.
I think the base, what you've just touched on, like, if people are asking questions and they're all seem to be the same question, then yeah, like, you could definitely use those kind of tools.
Mm-hmm.
But I always found this interesting because none of this happens for me at the moment. Like, no one's hitting me up going, hey, have you thought about this, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or there are some people that I do speak to that do touch on like different things that I've spoken about, or just different ways to read the room, I guess you would maybe, for lack of a better term. But I don't really have a lot of people hitting me up consistently all the time.
Yeah.
But then the things that I have noticed for me are like, people are interacting, saying like, this is really doing really well, I'm really enjoying this, whatever.
Yeah.
So then that kind of helps me, I guess, keep pushing and moving forward.
Yeah.
But then I get stuck with this. I'm like, okay, well, that's really great that it's really hitting home. but I'm like, how do I make it bigger? Like, how do I upscale and make it reach more people? I'm like, so then it makes me wonder that I'm like, well, I think the content and the value is there, and that I don't need to be concerned about that. Now I need to be concerned about marketing and like pushing it out and getting it out there more.
Yeah. So
that's where I'm at.
I reckon I'm going to try to remember the points that I just made in my head then. One thing, the people who reach out to you, Instagram stalk them, because they'll indicate what their interests are. You know, it could be that heaps of people are fully into fashion. You're like, oh, wow, there's so many people who are listening who are in like this industry, which I didn't have heaps of focus on. That will be like a huge thing. You might just find that there's like one industry that people like always come into you for. And then they might not be interested in the other stuff. And you'll get like really clear on that. Now I've forgotten the other point. Stats. Wait, like just following your numbers, hey?
Yeah. I do a lot of YouTube stats and stuff like that.
Fun.
But it's funny because I speak to so many different people.
Yeah.
So I never know which one. Like the last episode I brought out, bloody hell. was with Renee, and she's a tattoo artist, and that's done really well. Yeah. Like heaps of people really like that one.
Yeah, no shit.
And then there was another one I brought out with a photographer. And I actually, like when I remember doing the episode, and I was like, oh, like, you know, sometimes I always find that the episode that you never thought would do really well does the best. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought that. I was like, oh, like it's not that I didn't think what they had to say was interesting at all. Yeah. Like it was nothing like that, but like you just, you know, like some days you just kind of get a weird feeling like, oh, I'm not sure if this is like, and then I remember clearly thinking that, and then I remember thinking straight after, I was like, I bet you any money this is going to do really well because I feel like this. Yeah. It was such a weird, and then it has, and it's like the second biggest episode I've put out.
Amazing.
I'm like, that's so funny.
Yeah. Was it, and that I always think with that sort of stuff, it's like, did I know that was going to happen, or did I like manifest that happening? Was it me thinking that it was going to be great, the reason why it was great?
That is a pretty interesting.
Which one?
Yeah.
Are you the master of your reality?
Master of my own success.
Yeah.
Which is in my bio.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I also thought like because like what the big thing with podcasts is, I know I personally would just like read the title.
Yeah, titles they're like a big thing.
Yeah, that's like your hook.
And because really, it's long form content as well. It's like a bit of an interesting one. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm genuinely just having fun.
Yeah.
So I don't really necessarily care too much. I think it's more for me now. It's like what you said is like turning it into a business rather than just having it as a hobby, which is what I want to do.
Yep.
But I'm so calm about the whole process, which is interesting because I've never really been calm about anything before. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting that I'm so calm about this whole podcast. Yeah. Like it actually just generally feels like this is what I'm meant to do. Yeah. And I finally feel like I've just slipped into it. I'm like, oh, this is the best. Like this is exactly what, because I was thinking about this today is that the reason why I don't think I've ever stuck with anything is because I've got a really short attention span and I like to talk to multiple different people and do multiple different things. So for me, this is a way to speak to heaps of different people in the creative industries and kind of get like my 1% of interest in there. So I'm like, all right, sweet. So then I don't have to like go down that rabbit hole for like a month and then just put it down and then go down that one for a month and put that down. So now I get to just have all these different beautiful people come on and then just be excited about that, and I get to speak to them all the time. So then it's never ending. It's constantly evolving and changing.
It sounds like the most perfect place for you.
Yeah,
and like because of that, like it will be a huge success. Like just keep going with what feels good and make sure that you're always happy. If you find that you're not happy or like you're getting a bit over it,
I think it would resonate. I think people would see it. Yeah. You'd be able to tell straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm always stoked, so that's always
that one's fine then.
So where would you say, like now that your business is obviously, you do it full time now. So how many people do you have in your team?
I've got 4. Let me count. Yeah, 4.
Someone's going to get missed out. I thought I was part of the team.
So I got 1 full-timer and then the rest are casuals. But it's so nice. We're just like a little family. And I mean, I hired my friends, so that helped. But and then there's been that thing of just like being exactly where you're supposed to be, the right people just come, you know. So that was that's been so much fun. I never thought, like, I always loved working by myself, but now that I have a team, I'm like, no way, like, this is so much fun. And especially being up here, like, we came up here, didn't know anyone, and now it's just like, you got your little family and you get to go to work with each other and you're just having like a nice time, and that's like so good. When I was at in my retail job, hated it. Like, I don't know why I stayed there for so long. Like, literally hated every single day. And now I'm like, I'm never gonna, if I get the inkling that somebody's like coming to work and they feel like that, like, we have to change that. Like, that is just not okay. Because I'm like, I don't know whether it's just because, you know, you're a product of like the younger generations where you're like, I don't want to like work and like hate my life. I don't want to be, you know, sitting on the couch every night and going to bed. Like, I want to make everybody happy, and I want work to be fun. Work should be fun. If you're not having fun at work, you need to do something, because there's a perfect job out there for everybody. You just need to figure it out and don't do what you think that you have to do just because it makes money. But I've totally forgotten your question. I reckon that's happened like 5 times.
No, that made sense. You got there. Where did you get where does the name come from?
Oh my God, this is actually such a cute story.
I was like, I probably should find out. I was like, I mean, it's like people like waiting like the whole podcast just to know about this one question. Everyone's hanging on, like, is he going to ask? And it wasn't even like a question that I had in mind. And then I was like, the fifth design. I was literally just thinking that then when you were chatting. I was like, that is an interesting name. I was like,
I've actually had a few people. I've never shared this either.
Oh yeah, exclusive. So
this is fun.
Let's go.
Preface to the story: I'm shocking at stories, so I'll try to do it in the most logical order. So I was originally trading under Lauren Amara, which is my name, and I was doing a lot more art because I was like, I'm an artist, I need to use my name. Yeah. And then I was like, no, I'm a business, I need a business name. So I was sitting in a market one day and I was brainstorming all these ideas, and I knew that it was going to be, you know, I knew what I was making, which was like resin chopping boards and homewares. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll like do something that's like have a name that was intertwined with that. And I was like writing down all these names, and I was like, the keyword was wood, and I just basically had a list, and I would like, you know, do wood design or wooden resin, whatever, some sort of like creative name. And I was just like writing all these names, and this guy comes up to the market stall, like I'm supposed to be serving customers, and I'm just like writing. Very rude. Anyway, this guy comes up and he was like asking me all these questions. He was this really weird guy, but like there was just this energy around him that I was like, wow, this guy's really interesting. Like he was, you know, those types of people that are just like kind of, you know, on a different vibration or whatever.
Operating at a different frequency.
Yeah. And he was like, we were having these conversations, and he would be saying what I was thinking before I could say it. And it was just like this really weird thing. And he was like, I love your stuff. Like, it's all amazing. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm going to buy 5. And I was like, wow, like amazing. That's like my whole, like everything like I wanted to sell for the day. So he bought them all, and he's like, I'm going to leave these here with you if that's okay. I've just got to go out and like run a few errands. And I was like, no worries. So he left. I spent the rest of the day brainstorming and didn't come up with a name. And then he came back like a few hours later, and he comes over and he's like, I got you a present. And I was like, oh, what do you mean you got me a present? And he hands me this Ishka bag. And I was like, that's so lovely. I gave him like this massive hug, and like it was just one of those weird interactions where you're like, that was quite strange. And then he left. Oh, sorry. Here comes my great storytelling skills. Before he came back, I had my head in my book and I was writing stuff about oh my God, now I can't remember. Oh. Yeah, I was writing stuff. I think I was writing stuff. No. Okay. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I already scratched that.
It's not me, happy. I get what's going on.
So I opened this bag. He's left. I opened this bag and I was like, I wonder what he's got me. And he's got me these 5 essential oils. And I just bought an oil diffuser and I didn't have any oils. And I was like, I need to get some oils. Anyway, in my hand, these beautiful oils. And the box was called the 5 Elements. And I flipped it over and then read the back, and it was, you know, your standards, earth, air, fire, water. But instead of like spirit or like ether, it was wood. And I was like, isn't that weird? I'm just like trying to figure out like a name for wood. And then it had wood, and then the blurb next to it was a time of like creative shift and a new journey ahead or whatever was the description. And I was like, this is
deep.
way
That is
too
so
weird,
trippy.
right?
It's like it was meant to be there.
Literally. And it was just like this. I was like, hey, that's it. Like, that's it. It's just going to be cool. I'll call it the fifth design. Yeah. And it was just, I think it was like one of those little things where there was just such a energy around the interaction that I was like, it just has to be it. Like, it just has to be. Didn't really, like, I didn't love it. Like, I wasn't like, I love the actual flow of the name or whatever. But the way that it just fit so perfectly, and like a little commemoration, I guess, for someone being like so generous. Like, the box was like $100 or something.
Shit.
Yeah. He was like this, had his shirt off. He was probably like 60 years old, like fully
Full
like
surfer.
Yeah, like he was all like, you know, wrinkled from the sun, and just like this beautiful, like happy-go-lucky guy, and just completely generous. Like, just, and it was just one of those things. I'm like, yeah, why not start it off with that?
That's so trippy.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it was
That's
nice.
so good.
Yeah.
I'll ask a bit more of a generic question. Not that I like to ask these quite generic, but was there any particular moment within your business that you can remember where you kind of were just about to give up and just like throw in the towel?
Oh. My instinct is no, but I'll just quickly do like a mental run through.
Start running through the gym. Just quickly flick a couple of pages, make sure everything's right.
Literally. No, I don't think so. I just didn't I didn't ever see another option for me, like, once I started. There was no real plan bleep.
Bleep.
Bam, bleep.
Plan bleep. That's a swear word that was meant to be there. Just preempting it.
Oh my God. Yeah, there was no plan B. I just had to make it work. So things definitely failed, and I was like, I definitely had moments of, when's this going to work? Because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was preoccupied. I wasn't giving it, like, it was a very casual part-time job for me at the start, and I'm like, why isn't it working? It's like, because I just wasn't putting in enough energy or effort. So at those moments, I think I just wasn't very clear on what I wanted, and it definitely did make everything a bit hazy, and there was definitely moments where I was like, what are you doing? But instead of it being give up, it was just work harder. And then it got to a point of like, you need to do this. Like, this is it. Like,
did you set like small goals? Is that how you work? Do you like set small goals and then focus on them to get to the bigger goal?
I've become a lot more systematic now, but back then I was, you know, just a bit of a Yahoo.
So like, it's such a like 40-year-old mum saying,
yeah, it's a bit of a Yahoo.
There's a bit of Yahoo out there, dolls.
Oh God, I'm like, now I'm such a grandma. Can you tell?
Got your essential oils, calling kids Yahoos.
Oh my Lord. Back then, yeah. So I was like, just whatever I felt like doing for the day, I'd do. If things didn't instantly work, I'd drop it and try something else. So yeah, back then, no real plan. I knew that I wanted it to support my lifestyle, and it always did. And then it got to a point, about 18 months, 2 years ago, where I was like, no, I want this to be something more. And then I started being quite strategic with my goals. And then the cool thing with goals is that as soon as you put pen to paper and you write something down, you always achieve it. Like, there's just this weird thing of, I don't know, like, I believe in like manifesting. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So you can, as soon as you like let that out of you and you're like, this is what I want to do, that total mental clarity of whether it's a small goal for the week or it's a goal for the year. It's never about achieving the goal. It's that journey towards it, right? It's like that constant pull. You know, I think everyone needs that progress in their life, whether it's, you know, nailing a recipe or going to the gym or succeeding in your career or being a great mum. Everyone needs progress. I think that's like where dopamine comes in, really, like the motivating hormone. But having that constant motivation is so key. So goals, 100%. Small goals, big goals, to-do lists. I'm a sucker for a to-do list. If I write a massive to-do list, I'm like, I'm doing all of it. I don't care if I have to stay up. Like, so, yeah. But there's a whole science behind goals. If that works for you and you feel like goals have worked for you in the past, like you can really gear it towards success. Because a big goal is just like a multitude of tiny goals. And I think we all get really confused as well when we want something and we start running through the motions. It's like, oh my God, I have 10,000 things to do, and you try to do like little bits of everything and then you never tick anything off. And then that's really demotivating. Like I used to do that all the time. I'd try to do like 30 things at once. And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted, but I haven't done anything. But you actually have. You've only done 30 minutes of each task. But yeah, that's a tip.
That's a good. I think you've spoken really well across the board about business and like starting and like owning your passion and stuff like that. Was there like one particular highlight that you've done throughout your business that you're like just something that stands out from the rest? Where you're like, oh man, whether it be like you gave a gift to like a celebrity or whatever, I don't know, whatever it may be. Like your husband gave you a kudos for, I don't know, redesigning something. You know what I mean? Like, is there anything that you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was this selling like my first artwork. That was huge. That was like I just went into painting and it was all really fresh and I was like learning this whole new thing and I just kept making art. And then I went to a festival and I exhibited my art there. And then at the end, like I didn't, like no one bought anything and I was like, that's fine. Like it's still been so much fun to like be at this festival and like, you know, have people see my art and share it with everybody. And then at the end, like we were leaving and then the chick who organised the event, she came like running to me and she's like, I really want to buy that painting. And that was just oh wow, like, you know, maybe I can do this. And that was huge. And then this last year as well, last Christmas was just crazy. Like it was huge.
It'd be a big business for you around the Christmas time, hey?
Massive. And it just like, it was just, you know, having great people around me and we were all working together and we were all having heaps of fun. It was just like, wow, there's a success in this. Like, I think I did it. And now I'm like, yeah, okay, I did it. And like now it's just kind of coasting and like really enjoying it and soaking it up. So yeah. That's
the best. That's so amazing. Yeah. I'm so stoked for you. Thanks. There's two things we like to do at the end of the podcast. I don't know if you've watched an episode, but I always try to get someone to watch like a guest to watch an episode so they understand. But there's two things we like to do. One, the first one is you get a shout out a local legend who you think should come on the show to have their story told.
Yeah.
And the second one is, can you give a bit of advice to anyone that may be struggling to find, not motivation, but maybe find drive or inspiration to chase their passions and goals?
Okay. So, local. Don't really know that many people.
Local within, like it can be within anywhere, local as in anywhere that you think someone is willing to drive here to jump on the show.
Doesn't really help me.
Some people know people.
I'm very, it's very incestuous down in Melbourne. Everyone's, well, I reckon I've got my coolest friend, Bree, who's like just the sickest. She's, she lives up here and she's actually studying to be a helicopter pilot, which is just mad. I reckon she's, go women. Woohoo. And then advice. If it's what you love, it's meant for you. Like if there's that, everyone's got that one thing and people think that they don't have that one thing. And it could be as simple as, you know, I love talking to people. That's your thing. Go with it. If you love it, you will be able to put in as much work as is needed for that thing to work and things will just fall into place for you. But just make sure that what you're doing is what you want to do and have the balls to go after it and have the guts to back yourself.
Us, powerful stuff. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, I'm so stoked. Well, this has been another amazing episode of Creative Appetite with with my good friend Lauren from The Fifth Design. We've spoken about a lot of different topics, and I found a lot of value and content in this episode. And yeah, guys, you know what to do. Hang around and wait out for the next one. Woo-woo!